Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really sweet little 3D Loomigurumi candy corn. So you can do a little face on it, or you can do it just plain. I think either way it turns out really cute. It measures about 2.5 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall. So it doesn't take too many bands and it doesn't take too much time, so I think that's nice about it. I think it makes a cute little knick-knack or decoration for Halloween since it's right around the corner. You can add a ring to it and use it for a backpack or stick it on a purse. So I think it's a cute little design and I don't think it's too difficult to do, so I hope that everyone likes it. To make your candy corn, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I'm going to be using the Rainbow Loom metal hook, but you can use a crochet hook or whatever you have available. And I'm going to be using a twist tie to help me get the magic ring started. So that is optional, but I do find it easier to do with that. And you'll need some kind of filling. I'm going to be using polyfill. You'll need a few clips or stitch markers. If you're going to make a face on your candy corn, you're going to need 2 beads or buttons or rubber bands for the eyes, and the beads I'm using are about 6 millimeters. And then you'll need a few black bands for the mouth. As far as the rest of the bands, you're going to need 37 white, 66 orange, and 122 yellow. I'm going to begin by making a magic ring of 3, so for that you'll need 4 white rubber bands, and I am going to be using this twist tie just to help me get started, and then I have a clip. So what you're going to do if you're using that twist tie is just put it right next to your hook, and if you don't have one you'll just use your plain hook. You're going to take your first rubber band and this is going to get tripled. So you're just placing it on, twist, put it back on, twist, and then just loop it back on. So you'll have 3 loops on there. Then you can just bend your twist tie in half, and then that way it's just going to give you something to grab onto and help keep those 3 loops pinched together. If not, you'll just have to use your fingers to pinch those together. So you're taking your first band, it's going to pull through those 3 loops, back on your hook, and 1 through the other. And then from the front you're going back through those 3 loops, taking your second band, it comes through, back on, you'll have your 3 loops on your hook, 1 through the other 2. And then back through the front one more time, take your last band, pull through, back on, and then loop through. So then you can remove your twist tie. You want to take your clip or your stitch marker and attach it to the band that's on your hook. And then you just want to take a second and kind of stretch this out. It is a very small magic ring, but that's because we want that nice point at the top. So just do your best to try and even those 3 bands out. In row 2, we're going to use 9 white bands and we're going to do 3 single crochet into each stitch. So I have them in piles of 3. So here's your magic ring, and you're going to go through the first stitch. Now what I'm considering a stitch is like a little sideways V that's on the outer edge, and it has 2 loops. You're always going to go under both. So as I said, this is a very small magic ring, and so usually I have about 5 or 6 bands going into the middle, but for this one it's going to be kind of a long stretch to get over to that first stitch. So you're just going over, and from front to back you're going under those 2 loops. You're going to pull through your first band, get it back on your hook, you have those 3 loops and 1 will pull through the others. That's what's called a single crochet. We're going to go through that same stitch and do that a second time, and then once more through that same stitch for a third. Then you're moving around to the left here, go under your next stitch, and again we're pulling through 3, so there's 1, 2, and 3. And then the last stitch is where your clip is, but of course mine just slid off, so let me get it right back on. And I'm going to have 3 bands that are going in there. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then you're going to take your clip and just move it to the band that's around your hook. So you can take a second and kind of even this out again. Try and get those 3 bands that were in the magic ring to be evenly spaced. In row 3, you'll need 12 white rubber bands, and we're doing an increase in every 3rd stitch. So you can see I have the bands laid out in piles of 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, repeating. So I'm going to my first stitch over here to the left, and that's going to be a single. And then the next one over is another single. And then here in this next one is where we're going to do an increase. So we want to do 2 rubber bands into that same stitch. And now we're just going to repeat that pattern 2 more times. So that was a single, single, and an increase. And then you should have 3 stitches left, and we're going to repeat that 1 more time. And then that last stitch where your clip is should be your last increase. So at the end of this row, your stitch count should be 12. Just get this clip out of there. I sort of buried it in there. So you should start to see a nice cone shape forming. Row 4 will be our last row of white, and you need 12 rubber bands. So we're just doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. So this part should be pretty straightforward. You'll start to see the pattern that I came up with was to just do increases on every other row. So then your in-between rows are just going to be singles in each. I found that when I was increasing every row, it was just ballooning out too far. I didn't like the shape of it. So I changed it to this pattern, and I like the shape of it much better. And here's my last one. In row 5, we're switching to our orange color, and we are going to do an increase in this row. It's spread out just a little bit further, so you'll be increasing in every 4th stitch. So you'll need 15 orange rubber bands, and we're starting out with our 3 single crochet. And since we are changing color, you'll want to do a slip stitch. It's quite easy. I'll just show you how to do it here. Instead of pulling through just the stitch, you're also pulling through the one on your hook. That way you're getting all the whites to stay against one another, and you're getting the oranges against each other. So one pulls through the other, and then it's a single in the next, a 3rd single, and then in that 4th stitch you want to do your increase. And now we're back to 3 singles. And an increase. And then one more time, you have the 3 singles. And finally an increase. In row 6, I'll be using 15 orange bands. It's just going to be 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I am going to be adding my eyes in stitches 4 and 6. Now of course you don't have to add the eyes, that's totally up to you. So in our last row we had done a slip stitch, and when you do a slip stitch it creates something that I call a false stitch. So if you look here, this very first orange, it's like a little half stitch and it sort of sticks up instead of goes around the circle. That is not actually a true stitch. That's what I call that false stitch. So you just want to make sure whenever you do a slip stitch, when you go around in the next row, when you're going over top of that, not to go under that false stitch. So we're starting with this next stitch over here. And we're going to do 3 here, 1 in each. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then in the 4th stitch here I'm going to put my eye. And I did string this eye onto the band using a twist tie, or you can use a needle and thread, whatever you find easiest. And then I'm doing just a plain band in the middle here of the eyes, and then this 6th stitch is going to have my second eye. And then I'll just continue around. So you can see where you think the eyes would look best. You can do them anywhere you want. You can put them closer together, farther apart, put them lower or higher. And here's my last one. In row 7 we're still doing increasing. It's spread out again, so you're increasing in every 5th stitch, so you need a total of 18 orange bands. So I'm starting out with my 4 singles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in that next stitch I have my increase. And you may find that your bands are a little bit more stretched out or tighter together on one side depending on how that eye is pulling. I can see that this stitch here looks a little bit smaller than the last one did. And I have my 4 singles again here. and now an increase, and then 4 more singles, and then finally an increase. Whoops, just lost it there. So there's 1 and 2. Row 8 will be our last row of orange, and you'll need 18 bands. It's going to be just 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'm just going to let you do that on your own, so you can pause your video and do that now. In row 9 we're changing to yellow, so you're going to need 21 yellow, and we're doing an increase, and it's going to be on every 6th stitch. So we're going to start here with our 5 singles, and we are changing color, so we will do a slip stitch. So you're just taking your yellow, pulling through your stitch, the one on your hook, back on, so you have just the 2 yellow loops, and 1 through the other. So that was our first single. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we have our first increase, and then 5 more here, so I did my 5, now I have an increase, and now 5 more singles, and then you should have 1 stitch left that gets the increase. In row 10, you'll need 21 yellow bands, and it's going to be just 1 single crochet in each. So I am going to let you do that on your own, but I'm just going to start it with you just because we're going over top of where a slip stitch was. So here's where we left off, and you can see here that this very first one that looks like it's an actual stitch is that false stitch. So it should be a little bit smaller, and it does usually stick up a little bit more than the other, so just ignore that. You're going into that next one, and that's your actual first stitch. So pause here and continue around, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Row 11 is our last row of increases, so we're still doing the yellow. You're going to need 24, and we're doing 6 singles and then your increase. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then our first increase in that 7th stitch, And then we're doing our 6 again. So this is the last row of the body part here. And then we will have to make the base. And that's going to be all yellow since the whole bottom is yellow. And I have my second increase. And now 6 singles. So we are getting down to the end here. You have the bulk of it done. Just have to get that bottom complete. And then where your clip is, we have our last increase. The next thing I'm going to do is to make the mouth. So you can make this as large or small as you like. I have 5 black bands, so I'm going to see where I want my smile to be here. So I'm going to come down to where the eye is, to that next opening here, and I'm going to go from the inside and push my hook out. So I'll take my first black band and pull that through to the back, and then I want to come diagonally down and to the right and push my hook back out and pull it through to the back. So you'll have the 2 loops on the inside, and you just want to pull one through the other. Now I'm going to leave this band on my hook, and I'm going to come out through that same hole. I'm going to take my next black band, pull that through to the back, and I'm going to slide over to the right, straight across, come back out, pull through to the back. So you should have 3 loops here on your hook, and 1 will pull through the other 2. And it is easy to lose the loops off your hook as you're going from the inside to the outside. Don't worry if that happens. It's easy enough just to slip back on. And then I'm going to come out through that same hole again, pull through to the back, and I'm going to move over to the next open space, pull that other end to the back. I should have 3 loops on. And then I'm going to push out through that same hole, grab my next band, and now this time I want to come diagonally up here, sort of under that second eye, pull through. I have the 3 loops, so that's good. They actually all stayed on. It's not always the case. And I have just 1 left here. So you can flip this inside out. I'm just going to go under a couple loops here on the back. I'm going to take my last band, make a really nice and tight slip knot, and then if you wanted to, you can hide this band. You won't see it, but you might see it in between the stitches. So as a matter of fact, you could use a different color. I could have used orange. So I'm just going to hide this, loop it in and out of these black, just to make sure that it's not going to be visible once I put that stuffing in and it gets pushed up against the side. And so here is my little smile. To start the base, I'm going to do a chain of 10 rubber bands. So I have my 10 yellow bands. I'm going to triple my first band. So I'm just placing it on my hook, twisting, putting it back on twice. So I'll have the 3 loops, and I am counting this as one of my chain bands. I'm going to take my second band, just going to pull through and get the other end back on. So just one at a time, I'm going to grow this. And if you hold the section that you're building here and pull down as you're pulling through, it's going to help your hook from getting hung up. So here's my 10th one. And then what I'm going to do is take the one that's on the end of my hook and slide it through the other one. But I'm not going to pull tight. It is making like a slip knot, but just make sure that you leave it on the loose side. In the first and only row that we're going to do around the chain, you're going to need a total of 22 yellow bands. So here's our chain, and you should have that loose slip knot that you made at the end here. What you're going to do is go in through that same side, through the front, going under those two loops. You're going to take your first yellow, it's going to pull through back on, one through the other two. And then we'll just do one single crochet into the chain till we get to the end. So that's our second. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're to the end here, to this tripled band. So you're going to push through that from the front, go through all 3 loops, and this will be stitch 9 here. And we're going to go through that 3 more times. So it is on the tight side, so just push through from the front again. So we already had done 1 through it. So here's our second, third, and then 1 more time. It's definitely on the snug side. So that kind of pushes its way around to the other side. And then again, you're just going to push through from the front, and we're just going to work our way back. So we're just going all the way down this other side till we get to the beginning. And you can see mine starting to curl a little bit. Don't worry about that if it happens to you, because we'll flatten it out here in a minute. Now we're at our last one here, and we have 3 bands left. So we're going to do all 3 into this last chain. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So you can just take a second and flatten this out. It should look something like this. And then you're going to take a clip and put it on the band that's on your hook. The next thing we're going to do is to add the polyfill. So I have my little pile of polyfill, and I like to stuff little sections at a time, even though it's one big area. I'd like to take some smaller pieces. I'm going to get that to go up into the tip here. And you want to make it so it's pretty full, but not so much that it's showing in between the stitches. And we are going to sew this bottom on here in the next part. So let's see, I think that looks pretty good. The last thing we have to do is to stitch our bottom piece onto our main piece. So for that I'll be using 24 yellow bands. So if you have made a face on it here, obviously you want that to be the center of the front. So you just want to line that up and then squeeze this. And if you don't have a face, you can just sort of look around or see where it naturally wants to fold in, and you can just squeeze it where you think it looks good. And then I'm going to take this bottom piece and I'm going to line it up here. And so I'm going to start on the right side here. And I'm not going to worry about this loose band just yet. I'll do that when I come around. So where these stitches line up, not including that one, I'm going to go through the stitch on the body and then a stitch on the base. Take a rubber band, it's going to pull through both stitches, get the other end back on, and one will pull through the other. And I'm just going to go around to the next stitch in that counterclockwise direction on the body and then on the bottom. Going to pull through everything on my hook, so the 2 stitches plus the one at the base. Grab the other end and one will pull through the other. So now I'm over to my next one, and I'll show you what to do with that loose band for the body in a second here. So I went through the main body and now the bottom. Sorry if this clip is in the way here. Pulling through everything. And on this next one here, I'm going to pick up this loose band. So I'm going to go through that loose band. Actually, I think I'm going to hold on to that loose band, go through the body stitch first and then the loose band, just so that loose band is on the inside there, and then through the base. So this time I have one extra band I'm pulling through. Still want to go through all. So it's just a matter of going to that next one over every time and then working your way through everything. If you feel like your hook is getting hung up, you can pull down a little bit. That'll just help to open up the stitches. So we're coming almost around to the side here, and hopefully everything's lining up well. And you have to just do your best job trying not to get all of the stuffing to be caught in between your stitches. I know it's really a pain. If you want, you can just sort of keep pushing it down in with your thumb or your fingers. So we're starting to round the corner here. So you can see how it's starting to look here. It should have a pretty nice edge on it. And now we're just going to work our way back down. Whoops, just lost that. Get it right back on. Luckily it didn't start to come apart. And again, I see a lot of this fluff trying to poke through. And if you notice, a lot of times I'm looking to the side because I think it's easier to tell if you've gone through that stitch from the side view. So if you're ever confused, definitely turn it sideways and you'll get a better view. Whoops. Just lost it there. Let me get through my stitches again. There we go. And then as you get down here to the end, if you feel like you need any more stuffing, before it gets too closed off here, you can always add it. Once you get down too far, it's too late. So I feel like my amount of stuffing is good, so I'm not going to add any more. So it gets a little bit tougher to maneuver the more closed off it gets here. So it looks like I have 3 stitches left here, and what I'm going to do is to go through the stitch on the body, and now I do have this loose band to account for, so I'm going to go through that, and then I'm also going to go through that next stitch over here on the base. So let me just pull it out here. It's kind of hard to see. So my rubber band's going to pull through everything. And then in the next stitch here I have on the main part, and then where the clip is, where we just attach that, that's going to be our next stitch. And then I should have one left here. So I have one on the body and one on the base. And then there will be one more rubber band left, and that's just going to be the one that ties this off. So what I'm going to do is go through some of the ones on the bottom here. It's 1 or 2. I'm going to take my last band, go through everything, get it back on my hook, and make a really nice and tight slip knot. Don't want that coming apart. And then what you're going to do is just go up through, and you want to just pull that inside. And then your little candy corn guy is complete. So if it looks like it needs any adjusting, you need to make that triangular shape. But I think he turns out really sweet. I hope that everyone loves their new little Loomigurumi candy corns. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post your pictures to my Facebook page. I always love to see what everybody made. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you'll be the first notified when I have new tutorials available. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!